In this video, I'll be reviewing performance of ads to see if it seems to be slowing down or decreasing for no obvious reason over a several month span, and consider replacing a few headlines in the ads to prevent ad fatigue. So we're going to want to do this every 8 weeks. We're going to do this at the ad level. You can do this at the ad group or campaign level if you have a smaller budget, but if your budget is big enough, you should be able to do this at each ad level. And then we're going to do this over the course of a 16-week span because we need a ton of data in order to see if there is an obvious trend in our campaign's performance decreasing. So we're going to go to the ad account, and we're going to go back about 16 weeks or approximately 4 months so we can see that we've already done that. And we're going to do it up till yesterday. So let's get this set up properly. To yesterday, click apply. And we're going to want to be looking at the conversions and the cost per conversion. So I like to look at each of these individually to see if there's a clear trend, so that way the data doesn't get in the way of each other. So as you can see here with conversions, we started off pretty high right here, and then you can see there's a slow decrease, and you can clearly see the trend line in the decreased number of conversions. Obviously there's spikes and peaks and stuff, but you can see basically if you create a line right here and take it all the way down, the data basically reflects that it's clearly on a downward trend, and this has been happening for the past 3 months or so. We're going to just confirm this with the cost per conversion because it's not like we've changed our budget. If you have changed your budget and your conversions dropped because you reduced your budget, then obviously there's not really an issue with your ad fatigue because reducing your budget is obviously going to get you less conversions. But you should see a pretty steep drop off. If you dropped your budget, you should see a steep drop off on conversions as well. And same thing if you increase it, you should see a steep increase in conversions. But for the cost per conversion, you can see that we started down here around $10-ish. Obviously there's a little peak right here, but overall we're averaging about $10. And then once we come up here, huge spike right here. That's not great, but you can see that we're averaging around the $20 mark if you average in this high cost per conversion. So what I like to do just to check to make sure there is a clear and obvious difference between how the campaign started 4 months ago and how it's finished. We are going to go back and check the first 5-ish weeks of the time period to see what the cost per conversion is. And we can see it's around $10. And now we're going to come back to the present and look at the past 5-ish weeks of data to see what the cost per conversion is. And you see it's now $20 or $21. So it's gone up over 100% over that 4-month span. And so that's something that if you just look at all of the data all at once, you can't tell that it's gone up over 100%. You just see it and it's like, oh, it's gone up 40% on average from its low down here. But that's because you had a lot more conversions here and a lot less conversions here. So the weighting from here is much greater. So I like to check that just to see how bad the campaigns have dipped over that 4-month span. So as we can see, 100% increase in cost per conversion. For this industry, the $20 cost per conversion is still amazing. But we know that we can do better. So we're obviously going to try to get them a lower cost per conversion. And by doing so, we're going to go to their ads. And we are going to check to make sure it's just the enabled ads. And as you can see, we are only running one ad for this client, and that makes sense because if we go back and look at their budget's only $15 a day, so they don't have a lot of budget for more than 1 or 2 ads. So that means that any issue with the overall cost per conversion or number of conversions is coming from this one ad because they only have one ad. If they have more than one ad, what I would suggest you doing is going instead of by campaign, go by ad group and look at the performance and do exactly what I just did. Look at the number of conversions. So just for an example, we go here and then we go into the specific ad group. And then we go and we look at conversion and cost per conversion. And you can see here that obviously it follows the same trend. We did pause a poor performing ad in order to drop the cost per conversion back down to where it is now. But this is what you can do in a larger account, is go by ad group or go by ad in order to make these adjustments. But the actual adjustment is going to be made inside the ad. The data that you find can be found from the campaign side of things, can be found from the ad group side of things, or can be found from the ad level. But at the end of the day, we're making the changes inside the ad itself. So actually, we're going to go back out of this, and we're going to click View Asset Details. And the reason we do this over a 4-month span is so we can get a ton of impression data to see what's performing well and what is not performing well. So what we can see here is that a lot of the headlines that have been automatically created are getting almost no impressions. So that means they're not performing particularly well, but we don't necessarily need to make changes based on that. Because typically Google is automatically creating headlines in order to optimize the ad for a specific person. So we're not going to worry about any of the automatically created headlines. We're just going to worry about the advertiser created descriptions and headlines. For the most part, we're just worried about the headlines. The descriptions don't play as huge a role in your ad's performance. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look at the bottom and top performing headlines. Obviously, the descriptions, you only have 4 descriptions. So the descriptions are going to have a higher impression count. So we ignore those when we're looking at the headlines. So what we can see here is the top performing headlines have around 1,500 impressions. And the lowest performing headlines that we created were the advertiser. We're sitting in below 100. So we're going to want to find a good line at where we want to cut the poor performing ads. And the line we're going to set is around the 70 mark. So all of the headlines that we created that have this low of impression count is we're going to go over here and change. And the way we recommend going in and changing these is actually looking up your competitor. So we're going to go and look up the search keywords that we perform best for. So we perform really well for dentist, dental, and dentist near me. So what I recommend you doing is we'll go back to ads, view asset details, and we're just going to go up here and type in dentist. And we're going to look at the sponsored ones. Obviously, we are doing this for a dentist in Texas, and so the locations don't necessarily apply. But we can basically sub in our own locations for these locations that we're seeing here. So instead of Cool Springs Modern Dentistry, we could do Sachasea Modern Dentistry. So that's going to be something we want to try, looking for a 5-star dentist. And maybe we want to do another call to action. So let's see. Looking for a 5-star dentist, we would just come over here, take our worst one, look, delete it, and click save. Once you've done that, you've made and once you've adjusted as many headlines as you need, we will call it a day when it comes to making adjustments to prevent ad fatigue. And obviously we can change as many headlines as we want, but I recommend you keeping your best performing ones and only replacing the ones that are not performing as very well at all. So obviously the 70 and below, we're going to replace all those. I'm not going to replace them on this video, but you get the idea of what you should be doing in order to replace them. And obviously, once you first put in a headline, it's going to have 0 impressions. So don't confuse this. Don't confuse a headline you just put in and then replace it again because it has 0 impressions. You just put it in. You've got to give it that 8-week time span to actually get those impressions and see if it's actually working. Another thing you can do to find headlines is go to the Google ads transparency center. Go here, and you can type in your competitors to see what headlines they are using that seem to be performing well. Typically, their best performing ads are going to show up here. So what we can look is dental, and we will choose, let's see, JP Dental, and we can see what type of headlines that they are using. And so this is another way you can find headlines to test out inside your own ad campaign. Once you've made these changes, obviously you want to record that somewhere. We recommend you record it right here next to the row that corresponds to doing ad fatigue headline changes. So just put in the types of headlines that you changed, maybe put in the number of impressions that the headlines had that you changed, just so you kind of have a baseline of what to work from the next time you go in and try to make that change. To finish off this video, I'm going to show you a few more examples of campaigns that may or may not need ad fatigue adjustments, because obviously different campaigns are going to have different data points, and so some of them may not, most of the campaigns that we work with, they improve over time, and so they don't need new headlines in order to prevent ad fatigue because their performance is improving. This is just something we want to do if the performance seems to be slacking off. So, for example, here's another account that we work with. As you can see here, over this same 16-week span, we are getting a slow improvement of their ads. So there's no ad fatigue to speak of, and you can see this drop off right here. That's because we haven't finished out the week of June 17th. As you can see, it's June 18th right now. So to take that week away to make your data look better, we can just discount the last week. And that way we can see a better trend. So you can see right here, clearly trending upwards in terms of conversions, and then cost per conversion. Right here, we can see that it started around 60 and we are finishing down here. So cost per conversion you want to see going down, and you can see here that it stayed relatively level, slight trend downward. So this is good here. There's no ad fatigue, so there's no need to make changes. We're going to show you two more just so you have an idea to reference when looking at other campaigns. So obviously we want to look at the conversion data. We're just going to look at conversions. As you can see here, staying pretty consistent. No real trend upwards or downwards, and that's totally fine too. We always strive to get a consistent performance. So as we can see, started kind of low down here, and we've kind of bounced up to where we're getting averaging more around the 2 per week instead of 1 per week. And then if we look at the cost per conversion kind of started high on average, dipping up and down really wildly. And then it kind of came down to this lower average. Obviously, there's still going to be some peaks every now and again because we're dealing with a low budget here. But as you can see, cost per conversion on average is kind of trending downwards. So that's good. Even if it was just staying constant, that would be good too. So there's no ad fatigue here, so we can call this one good. This is a newer campaign that we were working on to optimize. This is something that I want to mention when looking at campaigns with wild spikes that don't seem to have any clear trend, especially newer accounts. When you are making a bunch of changes, there's no need to worry about ad fatigue. Because you have other higher priority changes that need to be made. So as you can see here, cost per conversion spiked, and then it dropped down, and our number of conversions spiked, dropped down, spiked again. That's because we're making other changes, so there's no clear ad fatigue because there are a lot of other changes that can be affecting it. That's why we look at such a long period of time, is because we want to average out the performance of our account. So if over that period of time you've made a ton of really big changes, you may not need to worry about ad fatigue as much. Now, there is the case where your ads are just simply not performing very well, and there's no clear decrease. They just haven't been performing as well as your competitors, or you're not getting the performance that you expect. And so like your ROI is really low. That is sometime where it's not necessarily ad fatigue. It just means your ads were bad to start with. And so you probably need to go in and test out a bunch of new headlines. But that's a little bit different than changing out, keeping in good performing headlines and removing the poor performing ones to improve the overall account performance. But that is something to keep in mind if you were just looking to improve your account from bad performance and the data doesn't necessarily show that the performance has dropped off. It's just always been bad. You might want to consider just changing up some headlines anyways, because your headlines just aren't attracting the correct attention in order to get the performance you're looking for. And that is a not very short summary of how to review for ad fatigue. And we will see you in the next video.